All right, folks. Well, welcome back to the Footprints of Faith and Chaos podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Lacey, and I'm here with my mom. This is Rebecca Kerrigan.
Hello.
So, we are going to be talking about seeing how we're doing a family series. Last week, we did what it felt like growing up in a large family, and I had my sisters. And this week, we're going to talk about mother and daughter relationships, and I have my mom. So this is exciting. I'm going to start right off the bat. If you enjoy listening to us and you want to follow along on this journey, please please subscribe. It's completely free, and it also just supports what I'm doing. So I would really appreciate that. So here we go. So one of the things I saw online, some questions people were asking is, why is a relationship between a mom and daughter so challenging? So I want to start right off the bat, get this thing kicking and going with a really tough question and ask my mom, why do you think that mother and daughter relationships are so challenging?
Are you talking about like when your teenagers are young or like as adults?
We can talk about all of it. Let's start like at a young age. So obviously all of you know that I'm a mom too. So I have that experience, a little bit of experience. So we can cater to that. We can start even at like a young age and like grow and like get older, like start there.
Sure. I think that knowing your child each as an individual is huge because having 4 girls, I had to know each of their personalities, and the way that I would speak to one of my daughters wouldn't be the same way that I could speak to the other one because their personality and their character was so different. And I always wanted to encourage them to have build their character, never squashing their character. So even when it came down to when we had to be stern and talk to them as they were growing up through some tough things, just knowing who they are as a person and really taking that time to know them individually really was first and foremost, I think, helpful, with dealing with anybody.
And I feel like that led to not having as many challenges and maybe building that relationship from a young age. And I feel like you did a really great job with all of us. I feel like you have a great relationship with each one of us girls. And I do agree with you. I think it's different with each of us.
Every single one of you is different. Every single one. But that also goes like when you guys would see me dealing with one child, sometimes you'd be like, oh, but if that happened to me, Mom, you wouldn't be like.
And I'm sure that Allie and Maya are going to say that to me. And it's so true because I sit there and I watch them and they are so different. They're so different.
Yeah.
And I can see that because Allie's way more outgoing and way more boisterous, and she's going to tell you right away. But Squish, or Maya, is she's more reserved, but she's kind of happy-go-lucky. So I can see that, like, I can see their personalities coming out, and I hope to do similar and kind of build those relationships and build those bonds at a young age. Like, do you feel like you built like that? Do you think that made it easier, maybe as we were growing up, building those relationships as like young girls, and young kids maybe made it not so challenging? Like, how do you feel like you did it where, I mean, now all of us have all graduated high school. We're all older adults. How do you feel? I mean, I feel like all of us have great relationships, but how do you feel like you did raising us and having relationships now?
I mean, nobody's a perfect mom. So,
and if they tell you they are, they're lying.
For sure. And you do the best you can, or what you think that you're doing the best you can. And you pray a lot. And you and I had the great support system, just like Rachel has a great support system, because I had my mom and my sisters, and I also had my mother-in-law and, sister-in-laws. So I had a village around me as well. And the church that we went to was just hugely supportive too. So, all of those things came into play, that, so much support from so many other people. But also to just continuing to build their character and work on their strong points, and when you see one of them have a great strong point, then you really work on that. And then when they have something that you see that, this is something in your character that we need to address a little bit and work on, then because we had such a huge community in our church, and we just had so many people around us to also be able to encourage us. And
so do you feel like that impacted you, like all of your relationships now?
Oh, for sure. Because we raised them, all of you guys, with scripture, and I think that impacted hugely, because it also impacted the way that I looked at you guys, and it impacted the way that I taught you, or would work on different things in your character and things like that, that I saw, because
it gives it a
of
reason,
those scriptures, and
a reason and a purpose of why you're teaching or training or guiding.
For sure. So that made a huge difference.
It's not just like, I don't understand why.
But it gave you something to be able to explain to them why we're working on this. And I guess they didn't really ever have to answer to me per se. There was always a higher call. Yeah, higher calling that, I'd bring them right to scripture with something, that I saw, and I'd be like, hey, you know what? This is what I see. It's not okay to be angry, because this is what the Bible says about being angry. So if they were mad, they weren't mad at me. I felt like, hey, this is what the Bible says, and this is what
right.
says for me to do. So I had, I felt like that also changed the relationship from you guys, always being like, well, mom says, you're always, saying this. It changed it so that, you can be mad at me, but I'm only showing you what the Word of God says, and what the Word of God says for you to how to live your life. So
right. And I think that was a huge impact. And I think that ultimately we believe in relationships. We believe the biggest thing is we were just talking about this recently, is like, we hate religion. And you're going to ask me, how can I say that when my podcast is literally called The Footprints of Faith and Chaos? And you know what? We believe in relationships. Right. We believe in a relationship with Jesus and what that looks like. And that is having a relationship with others and people that we care about and people that we love. And I think ultimately having a relationship with your mom is so important. I've seen so many of my girlfriends not have good relationships with their mom, or they lost their mom at a really young age. And like, that has had such an impact on my friends. I'm really lucky to have my mom, obviously, still sitting here. And now she's an excellent nana. And she'll get to have an impact and an input on my girls' lives, just the way that her mom had an impact on me, which is so special and so surreal to sit here and think about that and like just feel that. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit in the last couple of episodes, how my nana had passed away in October, and that was really, really hard for all of us, because she had such an impact on our lives. And what we're talking about right here is what she instilled on you, and what you're saying you instilled on me. And I hope one day generationally that I'll be able to instill that on Aaliyah and Amaya. And I mean, I hope that 20 years, 25 years, maybe I could be sitting here with them and they want to talk with you and with me and just talk about real life. Because like I said, ultimately my podcast is called The Footprints of Faith and Chaos. So we're walking through life together, and you guys are just getting a glimpse of what our day-to-day life is, what it looks like. It is Jesus and faith and relationships with a lot of chaos and crazy. We have a crazy big family. We have,
for sure,
ups, downs. We have good and the bad, the ugly, and you know what? You get through it.
I do have to say that, that was through the younger years and through the teenagers. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of, building character, talking, and more talking. That's like, and I think that my kids were so sick of me talking by the time I left. But it was, like, hey, I want to be part of your life. Like, what's going on? You're still that way. Like, I am still that way because, they're important to me. So when somebody's important to you, you talk to them.
You care.
And so definitely, like, that was part of it because I just, I wanted to always have them know that I was there. But then all of a sudden, when they became an adult and they graduated and they were on their own and they were doing their own things, that they would talk to me and I'd be like, okay, you know what? But I've done my job. I worked really, really hard and you're your own person now. And guess what? I don't have to be your mom anymore. I can be your best friend. And we can be friends now. I don't have to mother you. I'm here. I pray for you. I'm here as a sounding board. I'm here whenever you need me. Absolutely. You don't stop being a parent, but the relationship changes completely because now we're good friends and I don't have to be that mom anymore, and I can be that with every single one. And I think that that's really hard for a lot of moms to not transition to, that parent, what I says, go, say go.
And putting their thoughts and feelings on their opinions on their child's life, which I'm sure could be hard.
For sure. So like, and if I do give my opinion, if they don't follow or think about what I said, then, oh, well, guess what? They're living their own life and I did it my way when it was my turn and they're doing it their way. And it's totally fine. Like, it is what it is. I would never want to see them get hurt or do something crazy or whatever, but it's still up to them. And,
And this will be a little bit of foreshadowing to the next episode, but birth order plays a huge role in that. So like what my mom just said is like sometimes like what she says, her opinions or her thoughts on life when she shares them. For me, I take that so seriously. Like I sit there and I think about everything that she's saying to me. I think about what my dad's saying to me. I play it over. I think about all the pros and cons. I make my lists and then I'm like, well, shoot, what do I do? And then I'm stuck in my own and then I have to go back and talk to her again and make sure I'm like doing everything right. Again, we'll come to that birth order down the road. But it's so real. And like you said, like I've been reading this book. I can't even think of it. It's a really great book. I will post it for you guys. But it's a book about in the younger years doing the training and teaching and discipling and building. And then those are like the 0 to 5. I think it's like training. Years. And then there's like this another like 5 to like 12 is like, I don't remember. It was like training something. And then there was like, I think it's like coaching is like that 5 to 12. And then it's like mentoring during those teenage years and like trying to steer, but you're not really telling them what to do anymore. It's more hoping that all the training and teaching that you did as a young person will move into those teenage years where you're just mentoring and kind of just helping them guide their ship in which direction to go. And then after that mentorship comes that friendship. And I definitely feel like we're there. Do you feel like you're ultimately there with all my other sisters, or do you like me and Liza? There's a 9-year difference between us. She's just a freshman in college. So do you feel like Emily's married and off?
For sure.
Chloe's got a full-time job. She still lives here. So maybe Chloe and Liza, does that play a role because they're still home with you in your relationship there?
So with them, because of them being at home, they still are under our roof. So I still feel like
You're mothering
You're
a little.
not mothering, but there's rules at the house.
Oh, yeah.
So you follow the rules, and
they're not
that doesn't
strict
change.
rules.
And that doesn't change from, anybody. It just
They're very
stays
reasonable.
through for sure. And I also feel like, you have your husband to be able to go to, and so does Emily, when it comes to, hey, we have a situation, my car broke down, my whatever. So it's not necessarily.
We all call Dad when our car breaks down.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I'm saying, or something big that happens to them, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have that, you have that, other person who is your other half to rely on and make decisions and things like that. For them, they don't have that other half yet. So when, making decisions or something with money, hey, Ma, I got $30 and I'm still doing that.
ATM.
Yeah. ATM, Uber, not so much Uber anymore, but that was in the teenage years, ATM and Uber. That's all we were. But yeah. I think that it's not necessarily mothering, but it's, we're still there for them because they don't have their forever person to support and their, to bounce all decisions off of, and to, we're still there as a little bit of support. So it's not necessarily mothering, because they're technically old enough to make decisions on their own, and this is a great time to be,
free to
do
some
yeah,
things.
Exactly.
Before they're tied down with a husband and kids. And not that it's being tied down, but you don't have all those freedoms like you used to.
I know. And I think it's funny. So Chloe comes up to me. She got an amazing opportunity to go to Hawaii. And then she was so nervous to come to me and Dad. And she was, I don't know, was it 2 years ago? So she was 20?
Yeah,
And she was like, I got something to talk to you about. She was so worried. And I was like, what? Okay, what's going on? She's like, I'm going on vacation. I was like, okay, great. Where are you going? She's like, I'm going to Hawaii though. And I was like, perfect. I was like, that's great. I don't think she thought that we would be like, yes, go, have a good time. She was so nervous to come to us to tell us that.
She's probably thinking it's so much money.
But stuff like that, of course, she wanted to bounce it off of us. And, she was 20. She's doing her own thing. I'm like, bud, you're never going to get this, opportunity again. You better go.
Yeah.
So,
and then she had the time of her life. She talks about it all the time.
For sure. So
all the time.
Stuff like that. It's not like I'm mothering. I didn't have to tell her, and even if I said no and she went,
what are you going to do?
She's 20. Go for it, Whatever.
Yeah. So with that being said, obviously there have been conflicts through the years with each and every one of us, but what do you think in terms of conflict and resolution with your daughters? What would you give another mom advice, or we can even talk an example of ours? What does that look like to help other moms out there maybe struggling with their relationships with their daughters?
Give me an example. That's I need help.
So I think of a good friend of ours. She had helped make my wedding dress, and she has a daughter who is a senior in high school, and her daughter is so smart. She is brilliant. She has gotten accepted into a bunch of colleges, and I know that she has shared with me just sometimes it's really hard, that relationship, that senior year,
it's changing.
Yep, her daughter's transitioning to go to college. She's starting to get some of those freedoms, some of that senioritis. I was there. I felt
one of you.
so much of that. There was a lot of tension between you and I through that last year. I'm telling you, Mom, you trained me, you taught me, I'm ready to go do this thing. And you're still oh, I still felt you were no, I'm not ready to let you go just yet.
Right.
But I will. But that year is so hard for that mom that's dealing with that senior heading off what is the advice that you would give to that mom going through that situation?
Sure. Every single child is different and goes through it differently.
Mm-hmm.
The way that one child went through it was not the same as any of the others. Every single one of them was different. So again, knowing your child. So letting them make some of those decisions and is tough, but that senior year, it definitely, you have to start to let go, and you have to start to let some of those decisions that are, and pushing them to make good decisions on their own too. Like when the whole college thing comes into play and they're starting to make those decisions, and like making them make decisions, because one of my kids didn't want to make any decisions and the other one wanted to make all the decisions. So I had from one extreme to the other, where they were like, nope, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. And I'm going, you really got no choice. What are you going to do next year? And then I have the other one, like this one here, has all of her ducks in a row, knows exactly what she's doing, whatever. So two different ends of the spectrum, but it's a lot of prayer and to gracefully, I just kept talking because I didn't know what else to do.
You talk a lot.
I do, but it's because when I ask questions to you and when I talk to you and you're giving me answers, because I've talked to you from this big and I know you and I know your personality, your answer to me is giving me clues to where you're at. Mm-hmm. If you're telling me, I'm fine, but like, and I ask one little question like, hey, so how is blah, 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 blah going? And you're like, well, it changes everything. Or I could see a look in your face or something. And then I know where you're at. And it's not because maybe I really wanted to know that, but you know what, if you needed to speak about that or whatever, I was there. Also, because knowing you guys so well, I was able to kind of see where you're mentally were at. Because as teenagers, you're all over the place, and your hormones, even at a senior in high school, is all over the place. And you think that you're there, but sometimes you're mentally not quite.
Your brain is not fully developed until you're 23 years old. About 23. So think about that. I mean, most people are graduating college or close to that, and their brains are seriously not fully developed. They still need guidance. They still need help. So I can say, like, coming from that, like, I remember that senior year being so difficult. So difficult. And like she said, I've known since third grade I was going to Liberty. We took the one tour. I already signed up. I got early acceptance, the whole 9 yards. I was like, that's where I was going. And mind you, it's 12 hours from where we live. So that's really, really big. I'm number one. I was the first one to leave the nest. I was the first one. And it wasn't like I was going an hour and a half down the road where I could come back every weekend like somebody else. But I was 12 hours away. So it was either a plane trip or it was like a full haul, which I made several times, back and forth. But I feel like there was like a lot of tension, and I feel like I had some reservations, maybe even some bitterness built up, because again, that senior year was so hard, and I was I just want to like be able to make these decisions. I just want to be able to do it on my own. I just want you to tell me you're proud of me and that I'm doing it and I'll be fine. And you were always like, are you sure? And I was like, I think so, but I really don't know. And so there was some of that, and I felt like you do talk a lot, which is so helpful. And I feel like the thing that you can do with your girls is to constantly communicate, even if they shut you out, just having that small talk and then trying to build on that, trying to dive into that. Because I was gone for 6 years. And then when I came back, we had a huge, like, not huge, but it was like a stern discussion.
Right.
We kind of knocked it out, and we kind of just, it was like, what, maybe an hour where we just like, we both cried. We're both criers. So we totally cried.
For sure.
And we were basically like, it wasn't even that big of a deal, but I think we were just like, just maybe miscommunication, or I don't even know.
So
I don't
to
even
step
fully remember.
into this, though, there's a period of time, though, too, when every single one of you, when you guys moved, when you got to the age of like 18 to 20, 21-ish or whatever, you definitely are like this with me. And I'm okay with that, because you guys, I mean, it's hard, and I will say, and I tread lightly, but I do give everyone space, and I gave her space, and then when I gave her the space, she didn't like it, and then she called me out, and she was just like, "Well, you don't.
Do you actually care?
You don't call me. You don't anything." And I'll be like, "Okay, well."
You're like, "Well, what do you want me to do?"
And I'm like, when you do call me and we're talking on the phone and I say something that you don't want to hear, then I hear, okay. And then you're like, "Okay, I got to go, Mom, bye." So I'm like, "Okay, well then you need your space, and I'll give you some space, and then
it was,
right?
Such a mess.
So that's the time where you have to tread lightly, because it's like all of a sudden they're making their own decisions, they're doing whatever. So I knew at that point with almost every single one of them.
For like what though? It's so funny. Did you do that when you were like, did you feel like you knew it all?
Oh,
not
goodness.
necessarily knew it all, but you just like didn't want to hear it. I don't know. I don't feel that way now necessarily.
No. Because everybody gets beyond it, but it just takes that time. It's almost like, nope.
It's not that I didn't like you. It's
tread lightly with them for a season of times. Like every single one. Did it. Chloe's done it. Even though Chloe's been in my own house living here.
Yeah, I remember.
Chloe definitely did it. But now Chloe and I are really close. I feel like we're good. Liza's going through it a little bit. And
but she's right in that. She's 19.
She's 19. So I'm treading lightly. But yeah. We're working through. We're working through.
Circling that mom that's going through this right now, you will get through it.
You do.
And we come back around, and we still have beautiful, amazing relationships, and it's okay. And sometimes you yell and scream and fight. And as long as you talk through it and work through it and mend and rebuild that relationship, because I do feel like for like those couple of years, we took some steps back. But I feel like once we like talked it out and dealt with it together and like really like being vulnerable with one another and actually saying what's on our hearts and actually communicating, you know what? You take 10 steps forward.
Right. I remember I saying to you, "Look, I've made mistakes. I know I've made mistakes, but we can either sit here and think about all the mistakes that we've been through." And like, this was after we fought for a bit of time, and we don't fight often. Oh my word, no. And we can keep going over everything wrong that I've done as mom, or we stop and we go from right this very point, this relationship, and we build from here. And I'm like, I did what I thought I could do. I did my best. And you know what? We can go over and over and over everything, or we can go from here.
And being on the other side now and being a mom and being like, I'm probably going to mess up. I have messed up. And recognizing or like being on the other side of things and doing the best that I can with what I know how and what I have currently, I recognize like maybe some of the decisions you made or said weren't so crazy as I thought. Maybe she's not so crazy, and like just being on the other side and recognizing like, oh, that's why she did this, or, oh, she did this to protect me, or, oh, dumb. Like you have those like pause moments where you're it's not even that you're selfish, you're just naive and you don't realize or recognize because you're not part of that side of life yet. Liza.
Liza speaking.
It's because we were talking about her, so she wanted to hear.
You were talking about me?
But
yeah, it's
you
true.
just don't realize until you're on the other side, and you won't know all those things until then.
So daughters, that goes out to you, because you aren't going to realize what your mom's really going through until you have babies. And I know that you probably have heard it a million times. My mom used to say to me, I hope you have one just like you.
You definitely do. Maybe two.
I have a few. But we have some like John too, so we were in big trouble.
Yikes.
No, but it's true. So daughters, you know what?
Give your moms grace.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing
They're
best.
navigating through all that stuff too, and
especially if you're the first one, they really don't know what they're doing. They don't. And they're figuring it out as they go.
For sure.
And it's okay.
I said that to her too.
And your younger sibling's life is going to be totally different than yours. And you learn that that's okay too. And that just builds you into the person that you were always meant to be anyways.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's okay. And I feel like I crack up because I listened or I watch the reels and the memes of like the oldest daughter. Of course I'm the oldest daughter because of this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I relate to all of those things. Foreshadowing for the birth order coming up. But yeah, it's so cool. And maybe even our last kind of conversation is like you being a Nana on this side. And how cool. I mean, obviously it's really hard that you lost your mom within the last few months, and that maternal person that you go to, that you call, that you have in your life. Like, you're excited, to have granddaughters and to have that relationship with them. But like, I don't know, like thinking about that, like that makes me excited to watch, because like, I know how special it was with your mom and even Mimi. Like, I have a fantastic relationship with Mimi, and Mimi watches my girls. And like just today, you know what, Valentine's Day, I brought flowers to everybody. I brought flowers to all the moms. Watch that reel. That's a good reel. Bought flowers to Mom, Di, Mimi. I would have brought them to Nan's if she was here. But like I was saying, like, I have a fantastic relationship I have one and had one with both of my grandmothers. They're super important to me. We were always really open and communicative. And again, Mimi is still a huge piece and a huge role in my life right now. And being on the other side, just like I was saying, like being on the other side of motherhood, you're on the other side and being a Nana and a grandmother. Mm-hmm. What are you looking forward to, or what does that look like for you?
Oh, what's so neat is that my mom and my mother-in-law were huge, amazing examples as grandparents to my kids. And I didn't have any grandparents. I grew up with my mom's mom passed when I was
3, wasn't it?
Or 4. I was 4. And then we lived an hour away from my other grandparents, and my other grandmother wasn't around very much either, grandparents, and they died when I was a teenager. So I really didn't have grandparents in my life. So then when I had these 2 amazing grandparents, both my mom and my dad and John's parents, they were so amazing to my kids. I was just like, I felt kind of jealous that I missed out on like amazing grandparents. So I didn't get to have that opportunity, you know, to see like the amazing grandparents, but I saw it in both of them. And they did it so differently, but so amazingly too, that like it didn't matter what side. The kids just loved to go to either grandparent. So I just want to be that type of a grandma to them, or Nana to them, that, you know what, they having a bad day, they can call me up and, you know what, I'll talk. Because that's what I do. Sure. But like, come to me and we'll chat, and, you know, I'll, you know, hey, let's go out for lunch or whatever, you're struggling, or hey, let's pray about it. Let's, I want to be the support for her or for any of my kids, but also be there for the kids so that they feel like they can come to Nana's house and just be encouraged. And I don't have to discipline anymore. I can just love. And that's what I love about it. I can just be their support. I can be their love and leave all of that stuff to them. So that is like a huge, like, whew, like I did my job. Like I'm all set. I can just love on them. And so I'm so looking forward to all of that and all the fun things that we've done all of our lives, and traditions and things like that. It's so fun to watch them through it.
Yeah.
So school, sports, music, whatever they want to get into, it's all exciting.
But like you said, what a beautiful example that Mimi and Nana have left. Sure. Like what a legacy in relationship building and having those relationships. I mean, like we said, that's generationally instilled.
Yeah.
And Mimi and Nana instilled that and were amazing and are amazing grandparents.
For sure.
And they have shown, again, such an example of somebody who loves you, somebody who prays for you, somebody who gives for you. I recognize that through my teenage years, both Mimi and Nana gave me gas money. And I hope one day that she will give my girls gas money. You know what I mean? But just super small little things that just mean so much. And then that's why, again, relationships are so important, and why we can sit here and say how cool it is to come from such a large family and why we have that. And again, it comes from these guys. It comes from the older generations teaching younger generations what is important in life. And that is having a relationship with your mom, having a relationship with your grandma.
I like talking too. I know you make fun of it.
We're cracking jokes, but it's on.
But don't be on these. Get rid of this and
sit down and
sit
talk
with your kids, sit with your girls, sit with your grandkids, sit with them and
listen to what they have to say.
When you're watching them and looking at them, you can see their facial expression change. All of those things are so important when you have a one-on-one. You can't do that on this. You can't do that. So get rid of that, and they
build
said
connections.
Yeah, they said in church today too. Also, sitting at the dinner table is makes a huge difference. They said they went through the different ages, like you said, and just sitting at the dinner table and making a difference, getting rid of the phone and just having conversation and they said that what is one of the things that kids remembered the most was dinner table. So at the end of the day, making a dinner and you all coming together as a family and sitting together. And if a family means just you and your children, then that's great. If a family means a grandparent and a grandchild, that's awesome. If a family means, whatever it is, then sitting down at the end of the day and being able to have dinner together.
I think dinner was important.
Huge.
We do our doors were always open. Another thing that huge credit to my parents is our doors, and we've mentioned this almost every episode, is that we had people in our lives all the time. And I just always recognize when we had people in and over, we were always feeding them.
For sure.
And that's how you meet people where they're at. Sit, eat with them, let them join, be a part, build that relationship, build that connection, listen to them. I mean, people don't always come right up forth of what's going on, but if you really sit and listen and pay attention, I mean,
watch body language.
Yeah, you can make a huge difference in somebody's life. And again, something that she's taught me that I hope to teach my girls and my kids. And it's just so important. But with that being said, is there anything else that you would like to add about just a mother-daughter relationship? Hopefully we were encouraging to maybe some moms that are having a hard time with their daughters. Again, it gets better, it gets easier.
For sure. You go through the season.
Yeah. But is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap things up?
I mean, I don't really think so. I think I've enjoyed being a mom, and there wasn't any better gift that God could have given me was having you 4 girls, and that was what I wanted to do my whole life, was be a mom. So, I
Ooh.
mean,
You hit a point. Something, I guess, side note, something that she shared with me, I guess, knowledge bomb. I have those two. Go back and look at the reels on those. Connections is, you had said to me as a teenager, is pick a career, pick something that you can do and be a mom at the same time.
Mhm.
And I am so grateful to this day, being almost 30, having a career and being able to be a mom too.
Mhm.
And I can build that relationship with my girls and have that and still be in their life, still be there. And I can work and help support my family. So that's like a knowledge bomb from this lady, is to do something you love, but be able to be a mom too, because it's the coolest thing ever. But with that being said, we are going to wrap up, and thank you, Mom, for coming onto my show.
Thank you.
And again, this is the Footprints of Faith in Chaos, exactly what it means. You're walking through life with us, through faith, through some chaos. Again, if you really liked what you had to say, or you have questions about anything we talked about, please feel free to reach out to us. Leave a comment, leave a like. We're happy to answer any questions or share our testimonies or life with you, or pray for you. If that's something you need, we're always happy and willing to do that. But again, the biggest way that you can support what I'm doing and my journey is through subscribe. Again, it's totally free to you. It just builds my audience, and hopefully I can reach and touch other people and help them through their life. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys next week. See you later.